Alien school bullies mocked at the girl. She didn't laugh back. The transport ship broke through the clouds of 7, and Monroe pressed her face against the cold window like a child seeing snow for the first time. Below her, the Galactic Academy of Interstellar Relations spread across the purple landscape like a dream made real. Towers of white crystal reached toward the sky. Gardens of glowing plants painted the ground in colors she had no names for. Flying vehicles moved between buildings like silver fish swimming through air. She was really here. After 2 years of testing, training, interviews, and preparation, she was actually here. Was 17 years old. She had brown hair that she kept in a simple ponytail, brown eyes with small flecks of gold near the center, and a face covered with freckles that she had long ago stopped trying to hide. Back home in Arizona, she was considered pretty in an ordinary way. Here, among the aliens, she had no idea what she was considered, probably just strange. The transport began its landing sequence and felt her stomach drop as the artificial gravity shifted. She gripped the armrests of her seat and took slow, deep breaths. The other passengers, a mix of species she had only seen in pictures before today, seemed unbothered by the movement. A family of sat across the aisle, their blue skin shimmering as they chatted in their musical language. A lone male read something on a data tablet, his green face set in concentration. 2 Al clicked their mandibles at each other, in what might have been an argument or might have been laughter. None of them looked at. She had noticed that during the entire 3-week journey from Earth, the other passengers had gone out of their way to avoid her, choosing seats as far from hers as possible, leaving the dining hall when she entered, falling silent when she walked past. At first, she had thought it was her imagination. By the end of the first week, she knew it was not. She was a human, and to most of the galaxy, that made her something to fear. The transport touched down with a gentle bump, and the passengers began gathering their belongings, waited until the aisle cleared before standing. She was taller than most of the aliens on the ship, and she had learned that sudden movements made them nervous. So she moved slowly, carefully, like she was walking through a room full of sleeping bobbies. Her single duffel bag was stored in the overhead compartment. She pulled it down, slung it over her shoulder, and made her way to the exit. The transport attendant, a small creature with fur the color of sunset and large dark eyes, watched her pass with obvious relief. Outside, the air of 7 hit her like a wave of something she could not quite describe. It smelled sweet, almost like flowers, but with an undertone of something sharper. The gravity was lighter than Earth's, about 60%, and had to adjust her steps to avoid bouncing with each stride. The sun was larger than Earth's sun and gave off a pinkish light that made everything look like it was underwater. A path led from the landing pad toward the main campus. Followed it, her eyes taking in every detail. The buildings were even more beautiful up close, their white surfaces carved with patterns that seemed to move when she was not looking directly at them. Students walked the paths between buildings, dozens of different species going about their daily lives. Some flew, some floated, some walked on 2 legs, some on 4, some on more than she could count. And then there was her, the only human for light years in any direction. The registration office was located in a building near the center of campus. Found it by following the signs, which were written in the common galactic script that she had spent months learning to read. The building's entrance was a wide archway that seemed to sense her approach and expanded slightly as she walked through, as if making room for her larger frame. Inside, the air was cooler and carried the faint hum of technology beyond her understanding. Sat behind a curved desk, his 4 arms moving across multiple screens at once. He looked up as approached, and his large oval eyes went wide. "You are the human," he said. It was not a question. "Monroe," she confirmed. "I have an appointment with Counselor." "I am Counselor." He stood and realized he was even taller than she had expected, his willowy body unfolding like a flower seeking sunlight. "I have been assigned to oversee your integration into the academy. Please follow me." He led her through a maze of corridors, past offices and meeting rooms and spaces whose purposes she could not guess. Other staff members stopped what they were doing to watch her pass. Some whispered to each other. Others simply stared. His office was small but comfortable, with chairs designed to accommodate multiple body types. Chose one that looked sturdy enough to hold her weight and sat down carefully. Settled into his own chair, his four arms folding in a complex pattern that she thought might indicate nervousness. "I will be honest with you, Ms. Monroe," he said. "Your presence here is unprecedented. The Academy has welcomed students from over 300 worlds, but never before from a. There were many who argued against accepting your application." "I know," said. "I read the news coverage." "Then you know that you will be under intense scrutiny during your time here. Every action you take, every word you speak, will be analyzed and debated. You are not simply a student. You are a representative of your entire species." Nodded. She had heard this speech many times before from the selection committee back on Earth, from the diplomats who had coached her on alien customs, from her own parents in the weeks before her departure. She knew the weight she carried. She felt it every moment of every day. "I understand," she said. "I'll do my best to represent humanity well." His expression was difficult to read. "I hope so, for your sake and for the sake of human confederacy relations." He tapped one of his screens and a document appeared in the air between them. "These are the rules you must follow during your stay. I assume you have memorized them." "All 642 of them." "Good. Then you know that you are expected to move at reduced speed when in the presence of other students. You know that you must announce yourself before entering any shared space. You know that physical contact with other species is strictly prohibited unless explicitly invited." "I know." "You know that your dormitory room has been specially reinforced to handle your physical requirements. You know that your meals will be prepared separately to avoid contamination with human biochemistry. You know that you are not permitted to participate in sports or physical activities with other students due to your species' enhanced strength and endurance." "I know all of this, counselor," kept her voice calm, but she felt a flicker of frustration in her chest. "I've spent 2 years preparing for this. I'm not going to cause any problems." Studied her for a long moment. His eyes, large and dark and unblinking, seemed to be looking for something in her face. Whatever it was, he apparently did not find it because he simply nodded and handed her a data tablet. "Your schedule," he said. "Your first class begins tomorrow morning. Introductory Xenobiology with Professor. I suggest you arrive early and choose a seat in the back of the room. It will make the other students more comfortable." Took the tablet and stood. "Thank you for your time, counselor." "One more thing." His voice stopped her at the door. "I have seen the psychological profiles of your species. I know that humans have a tendency toward aggression when they feel threatened. Whatever happens during your time here, whatever provocations you may face, I strongly advise you to remember that you are a guest in our galaxy. Violence of any kind will result in immediate expulsion and could have serious consequences for human confederacy relations." Turned to look at him. "I'm not going to hurt anyone, counselor. That's not who I am." "I hope that is true, Ms. Monroe, for everyone's sake." She left the office without another word. The dormitory was on the eastern edge of campus, a tall building with windows that caught the pink light of the setting sun. Found her room on the 3rd floor at the end of a long corridor. The door recognized her biosignature and slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was exactly as the handbook had described. The bed had a titanium frame, sturdy enough to support her weight without creaking. The walls were lined with impact-resistant polymer, capable of withstanding forces that would shatter normal construction materials. The furniture was simple but solid. A desk for studying, a chair for sitting, a small closet for her belongings. A single window looked out over the campus gardens, where bioluminescent plants were beginning to glow in the fading light. Stood at the window for a long moment, watching the colors shift and dance. It was beautiful, alien and strange, but beautiful. She unpacked her bag slowly, placing her few personal items on the desk. A photograph of her parents and younger brother, taken at her going-away party. A small rock she had picked up from her family's backyard on the morning she left. A worn paperback copy of her favorite book, a story about a girl who traveled to strange lands and found her way home again. When everything was in its place, sat on the bed and let herself feel, really feel, the enormity of what she had done. She was 18,000 light-years from home. She was surrounded by species that feared and distrusted her. She was completely and utterly alone. And tomorrow, she would have to prove that humans belonged among the stars. She did not sleep well that night. The bed was comfortable enough and the room was quiet, but her mind would not stop spinning. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the faces of the aliens on the transport, the way they had looked at her with barely concealed fear. She heard counselors' words echoing in her head. Violence of any kind will result in immediate expulsion. She was not a violent person. She had never been in a fight in her life. But she knew what the aliens saw when they looked at her. They saw a predator from a world of predators, a survivor of a planet that killed most things that tried to live on it, a member of a species that had clawed its way to dominance through stubbornness, adaptability, and a willingness to do whatever it took to survive. They were not entirely wrong. Humans were all of those things, but they were also kind and curious and capable of great compassion. Had to believe that. She had to believe that if she just showed them who she really was, they would see past their fear. When her alarm went off the next morning, she was already awake, staring at the ceiling. She got up, showered in the small bathroom attached to her room, and dressed in the standard uniform of the academy. The fabric had been specially designed to accommodate her body temperature, which ran higher than most alien species. It was comfortable, if a bit plain. She ate breakfast alone in her room. Her meals were delivered through a small hatch in the wall, prepared by automated systems that had been programmed with human nutritional requirements. The food was bland but edible, some kind of protein paste with a texture like oatmeal and a taste like nothing at all. Then she gathered her data tablet and her courage, and she went to class. The Xenobiology lecture hall was a large amphitheater with seats arranged in rings around a central platform. Students were already filling in when arrived, choosing seats and chatting with friends. She walked down the aisle toward the back of the room, moving slowly and keeping her eyes forward. Every conversation stopped as she passed. She could feel them watching her. Hundreds of eyes, dozens of different shapes and colors, all tracking her movement across the room. She kept her face neutral, her posture relaxed, her hands visible at her sides, non-threatening, harmless, just a student looking for a seat. She found an empty row in the very back and sat down. The chair groaned slightly under her weight, but it held. She placed her data tablet on the small desk in front of her and pretended to review the course materials. Slowly, the conversations resumed. The other students went back to their chatter, though noticed that several kept glancing in her direction. She ignored them. She had gotten good at ignoring things over the past few weeks. A few minutes before class was scheduled to begin, someone sat down in the seat next to her. Looked up in surprise. A young female was settling into the chair, her blue skin shimmering with nervous energy. She had 2 primary arms and 2 smaller secondary arms, all of which were currently pressed close to her body. Her large eyes met, then quickly looked away. "Is this seat taken?" they asked. "No," said, "go ahead." The alien sat in silence for a moment, her secondary arms twitching. Then she spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm Lyra of House. Monroe, nice to meet you." "You're the human." Lyra's eyes darted to space, then away again. "The one from the—" "That's me." Another pause. Could practically see the questions building up behind Lyra's eyes. Finally, the blurted out, "You're smaller than I expected." Despite herself, smiled. I get that a lot. I mean, no offense. It's just that the stories make your species sound so terrifying. Lyra's skin flushed a deeper shade of blue. I didn't mean. It's okay, I know what people say about humans. Most of it is exaggerated. Paused. Some of it isn't. Before Lyra could respond, a commotion at the front of the room drew their attention. A group of students had entered through the main doors, their body language radiating confidence and self-importance. They moved through the crowd like they owned the place, and based on the way other students scrambled to get out of their way, maybe they did. At the center of the group was a male. He was shorter than but built like a tank, his green skin marked with elaborate tattoos that covered his arms and neck. His eyes were small and dark, set deep in a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. He walked with the easy swagger of someone who had never been told no in his entire life. "Who's that?" asked. Lyra's voice dropped even lower. "Of Clan Thornback. His family owns half the mining operations in the sector. He's very powerful." Watched as and his entourage claimed seats in the front row, directly in the professor's line of sight. The other students in that area quickly relocated, leaving empty seats around the group like a buffer zone. "He looks like a bully," said. Lyra made a small sound of alarm. "Don't say that, if he heard you. He's all the way at the front. He can't hear anything. You don't understand, has ears everywhere. People who cross him have a tendency to disappear. Not permanently," she added quickly, seeing his expression. "But their academic records get damaged. Their family businesses lose contracts. Their reputations are destroyed. So he's a bully with money and connections. We have those on Earth too." Lyra stared at her. "You're not afraid of him?" Considered the question. Back home, she would have laughed it off. Of course, she was not afraid of some rich kid with an attitude problem, but this was not home. The rules here were different. She was different. "I try not to be afraid of anyone," she said finally. "Fear makes you do stupid things." Before Lyra could respond, the lights in the room dimmed, and a figure floated to the center of the platform. Professor was an ancient, her translucent body glowing with soft phosphorescence. She looked like a jellyfish that had learned to fly, and her voice resonated through the room like wind chimes in a breeze. "Welcome to Introductory Xenobiology," she said. "I am Professor, and I will be your guide through the magnificent diversity of life in our galaxy." A three-dimensional hologram flickered to life above the platform, showing a slowly rotating cell structure. Leaned forward, genuinely interested. This was why she was here. Not the politics, not the diplomacy, not the burden of representing her species. She was here because she wanted to learn. "In this course," continued, "we will explore how different species have adapted to their home environments. We will examine the biological foundations of culture and society. We will learn to see the galaxy not as a collection of separate worlds, but as a tapestry of interconnected life." The hologram shifted, showing images of various alien species, a digging in rocky soil, a swimming through cloudy skis, a owl building a hive from secreted materials, and then, to surprise, a human. The image showed a woman running across a grassland, her body lean and efficient, her arms pumping in rhythm with her legs. The hologram highlighted her cardiovascular system, her respiratory system, the complex network of muscles and tendons that allowed her to maintain this pace for hours without rest. "The addition to our confederacy," said, and felt every eye in the room turn toward her. "Humans from the planet Earth, a fascinating case study in extremophile evolution." Kept her eyes on the hologram, refusing to look around. She could feel the weight of attention pressing down on her like a physical force. "Earth is what we classify as a Category 12, continued. "High gravity, extreme temperature variations, toxic atmosphere, endemic predators, frequent natural disasters. By all reasonable predictions, sapient life should not have evolved there at all. and yet it did. The hologram showed Earth now, a beautiful blue marble floating in the blackness of space. Felt a pang of homesickness so sharp it almost made her gasp. Humans developed without the natural advantages that most sapient species possess. No claws, no venom, no armor, no wings. Instead, they developed something far more powerful: adaptability. They can survive in almost any environment. They can eat almost any organic matter. They can recover from injuries that would kill most species. And they can maintain physical activity at levels that seem almost impossible to outside observers. The hologram shifted again, showing a human heart pumping, blood flowing through arteries and veins. The human cardiovascular system is remarkably efficient. Combined with their efficient cooling mechanism, this allows them to pursue prey over long distances until the prey simply collapses from exhaustion. This hunting technique, called persistence hunting, is nearly unique in the galaxy. A murmur ran through the audience. Could not tell if it was impressed or horrified, probably both. "We will study human biology in more detail later in the semester," said. "For now, let us begin with the fundamentals of cellular structure across different species." The lecture continued for another hour. Took detailed notes, asked no questions, and tried to ignore the occasional glances from the students around her. When the class finally ended, she gathered her things quickly, hopping to slip out before. The voice cut through the noise of departing students like a blade. Turned to find standing behind her, his entourage arranged in a loose semicircle. Up close, he was even more intimidating than he had appeared from a distance. His body was thick with muscle, his hands ending in blunt claws that looked capable of crushing stone. "Can I help you?" asked. His mouth twisted into something that might have been a smile. "I wanted to welcome you to the academy. We don't get many of your kind here." "I'm the first, actually." "Yes, the first." He took a step closer and had to consciously stop herself from stepping back. She was taller than him, she reminded herself. She was stronger than him. She had nothing to fear. But the handbook said no physical contact. The handbook said to avoid confrontations. The handbook said 1,000 things that basically boiled down to one message: don't make trouble. "Do you know what we call your planet in the tongue?" asked. His voice was casual, almost friendly, but his eyes were cold. "We call it the nightmare world. A place where the very air is poison, where fire falls from the sky, where the ground itself shakes and splits open to swallow the unwary." "It's not that bad," said. "The weather's usually pretty nice where I'm from." The joke fell flat. Companions, a mix of Al and other species did not recognize, stared at her without expression. Himself just leaned closer. "We also call your people the unfinished ones. Did you know that? Because evolution clearly made a mistake with you. No claws." He held up his own hand, spreading his thick fingers. "No armor." He tapped his chest, which was covered in thick, leathery skin. "No venom, just soft, fragile flesh stretched over breakable bones." He said the last words slowly, savoring them. Felt something stir in her chest. Not fear. Something older and deeper. Something that had kept her ancestors alive on the African savanna when predators came hunting. She pushed it down, way down. "You don't belong here," continued. "This academy is for civilized species, not animals." "I'll try to keep my animal instincts under control," said. Her voice was calm, but her heart was beating faster now. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have another class to get to." She stepped to the side, intending to walk around the group. One of the owl, a large with a polished carapace, moved to block her path. Its mandibles clicked in what she recognized as an aggressive display. "Wasn't finished speaking," the owl said. Stopped. She could feel the other students watching now. Some had paused at the doors to observe. Others were pretending to gather their things while keeping their attention on the confrontation. Even Professor had lingered near the back of the room, her glow dimmed as she watched in silence. And then there was Lyra, still sitting in her seat. her hands pressed over her mouth and her skin flickering through shades of anxious purple. Took a slow breath, then should speak faster. Some of us have schedules to keep. The owl's mandibles clacked harder. For a moment, thought it might actually attack her. She calculated the distance between them, the angle of its body, the location of its joints and weak points. She could take it. She knew she could. Owl were fast and their mandibles were sharp, but their exoskeletons were brittle in certain places, and their compound eyes made them vulnerable to quick lateral movements. But that was not who she wanted to be. Raised one thick hand, signaling his companion to stand down. His eyes never left's face. "We'll continue this conversation later," he said. "Welcome to the academy. I have a feeling your time here will be educational." He turned and walked away, his entourage falling into step behind him. Watched them go, her body tense, her senses still on high alert. When they were finally out of sight, she let out the breath she had been holding. Lyra appeared at her side, trembling visibly. "That was incredibly stupid," the whispered. "Probably. He's not going to let this go. You embarrassed him in front of everyone." "I didn't do anything except stand there." "You looked at him directly. You talked back to him. In culture, that's practically a declaration of war." Shrugged. "I'm not." "That won't matter to him." Lyra's secondary arms were twitching rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. "You need to be careful, is dangerous. His family has connections everywhere. He's had students expelled before just for looking at him the wrong way." "Then I'll make sure to always look at him the right way." Lyra stared at her. "How can you joke about this?" "Because if I don't joke, I'll scream." Picked up her data tablet and tucked it under her arm. "Come on, we're going to be late for our next class." They walked together through the corridors of the academy. Other students moved out of their way, giving the wide berth she had grown accustomed to. But Lyra stayed close, her delicate form almost brushing against his arm. "Why did you sit next to me?" asked. "Earlier, I mean. Everyone else was avoiding me like I had a disease." Lyra was quiet for a moment. "My grandmother was an explorer," she said finally. "She traveled to hundreds of worlds before I was born. She used to tell me stories about the things she'd seen. Beautiful things, terrible things, amazing things." "That sounds wonderful." It was, but the thing I remember most is what she said about fear. She said that fear is natural. Fear keeps us alive, but fear can also keep us from seeing the truth about others. Lyra glanced at, then quickly looked away. "I've heard all the stories about humans, about how dangerous you are, how violent, how primitive. But when I saw you sitting alone in that classroom, you didn't look dangerous. You looked lonely." Did not know what to say to that, so she just nodded and kept walking. Their next class was interstellar history, taught by a creature that looked like a walking tree with eyes. Sat in the back again, and Lyra sat beside her. The lecture was about the formation of the Confederacy of Allied Species, how dozens of different civilizations had come together over thousands of years to create a framework for peaceful coexistence. Took notes and tried to focus, but her mind kept drifting back to the confrontation with. She knew she had handled it badly. She should have been more submissive, more apologetic, more willing to accept her place at the bottom of the social hierarchy. That was what the handbook said. That was what her training had prepared her for. But something in her had rebelled at the thought. Some stubborn, human part of her that refused to be treated like a monster just because of where she was born. After class, she and Lyra found a quiet corner of the campus gardens to eat lunch. Well, Lyra ate lunch. Just sat on a bench and watched, since her meals were still delivered to her room. "What's it like?" Lyra asked between bites of something that looked like crystallized honey. I mean." Thought about how to answer. "It's complicated. Earth is a lot of things at once. It's dangerous, like they said in class. We have earthquakes and hurricanes and volcanoes. We have animals that can kill you in dozens of different ways. We have diseases and disasters and a million other things that can go wrong at any moment." That sounds terrifying. Sometimes it is, but it's also beautiful. We have oceans so vast you can't see the other side, mountains so tall they touch the clouds, forests filled with life in every shape and color you can imagine, smiled, remembering. And we have sunsets. The sky turns orange and pink and purple all at once like someone painted it just for you. I miss those the most, I think. Lyra's skin had shifted to a soft, wondering blue. It doesn't sound like it when you describe it. It is and it isn't. That's the thing about Earth. It's trying to kill you all the time, but it's also giving you reasons to stay alive. Is that why your species is so resilient? Considered the question. Maybe. Humans have always been survivors. We're not the strongest or the fastest or the toughest, but we're stubborn. We refuse to give up even when everything is against us. I think that's our real superpower if we have one. Stubbornness is a superpower. It can be. It kept my ancestors alive when bigger, stronger predators were hunting them. It pushed us to build civilizations and explore our world and eventually reach for the stars. Paused. It's also what's going to keep me going here, no matter what or anyone else throws at me. Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached out with one of her secondary arms and gently touched his hand. It was a gesture of solidarity among her people, and recognized it from her cultural studies. I think I understand why my grandmother loved exploring so much, Lyra said. Finding people like you, learning that the stories aren't always true. The stories are partly true, admitted. Humans can be violent, we can be cruel. We've done terrible things to each other throughout our history, but we've also done amazing things. We've created art and music and literature. We've built societies based on cooperation and compassion. We've learned to be better than our instincts. That sounds like every species I know. Maybe that's the point. Maybe we're not as different as everyone thinks. The rest of the day passed without incident. Attended her remaining classes, took her notes, and avoided any further confrontations. She ate dinner alone in her room, reviewed her assignments, and went to bed early. But sleep did not come easily. She kept replaying the day's events in her mind, analyzing every interaction, every word, every glance. She thought about his casual cruelty. She thought about Lyra and her unexpected kindness. She thought about all the students who had watched her with fear in their eyes, all the faculty who had treated her like a dangerous animal that might snap at any moment. She thought about Earth, so far away now that the light from its sun would take years to reach her. And she wondered, not for the first time, if she had made the right choice in coming here. The next morning, she woke to find her door vandalized. Someone had smeared the surface with bioluminescent paint, spelling out words in 3 different languages. Her translator rendered them as Go home, monster, DATHWORLDER filth. Stood in the doorway and stared at the message for a long moment. Then she went back into her room, found a cleaning cloth and began scrubbing the paint away. It took nearly an hour, and she missed her first class, but she did not report the incident to anyone. What would be the point? She already knew who was responsible, and she knew that no one would do anything about it. When she finally made it to her second class, Lyra was waiting for her outside the door. I heard what happened, they said. Her skin was a worried shade of purple. Are you okay? I'm fine, it was just paint. It's not just paint, it's a threat. You need to tell someone. Tell who? Counselor. He already thinks I'm a walking time bomb. If I complain about a little graffiti, he'll probably use it as proof that humans are too disruptive for civilized society. Lyra's secondary arms twitched. That's not fair. Fair doesn't have anything to do with it. I'm here to prove that humans can exist peacefully among other species. That means taking whatever they throw at me without fighting back. But it's necessary. His voice was firm, but not unkind. I knew this wasn't going to be easy, Lyra. I knew there would be people who hated me for what I am. I just have to be better than them. I have to show everyone that humans aren't the monsters they think we are." Lyra looked at her for a long moment. Something shifted in her expression, a kind of sad understanding that made his heart ache. "You shouldn't have to carry this burden alone," Lyra said. "Maybe not, but I'm the only human here, so I don't really have a choice." They went to class together, sat in the back and took her notes and pretended not to notice the whispers and stares. And when the day ended, she returned to her room and cleaned up whatever new mess had been left for her. That became her routine over the following weeks. Wake up, clean up whatever vandalism had occurred during the night, go to class, study, eat alone, sleep, repeat. The harassment never stopped. Crude messages appeared on her door almost every day. Her belongings were stolen or destroyed. Strange smells invaded her room, the result of some kind of chemical agent that made her eyes water and her skin itch. Her data tablet was hacked, corrupting her coursework and filling her screen with disturbing images. Through it all, maintained her composure. She reported each incident to the administration, documented everything carefully, and continued to attend her classes with her head held high. She refused to give the satisfaction of seeing her break. But at night, alone in her room, she allowed herself to feel the weight of what she was going through. The isolation, the fear, the growing certainty that no matter what she did, no matter how hard she tried, there would always be people who hated her simply for existing. She missed her family. She missed her friends. She missed walking down the street without people crossing to the other side to avoid her. She missed being normal. But she was not going to quit. She was a human, and humans did not quit. One evening, about 3 weeks into the semester, was studying in the library when Lyra found her. The skin was flickering rapidly through shades of blue and purple, a sign of extreme agitation. "What's wrong?" asked. "I just heard something." "About?" Lyra glanced around nervously, then lowered her voice. "He's planning something, something big. I don't know the details, but one of his followers was bragging about it in the common room. They said they were going to teach through a lesson she'd never forget." Felt a chill run down her spine, but she kept her expression neutral. "When?" "I don't know, soon, I think. You need to be careful, really careful. If has decided to escalate." "I know, thank you for telling me." Lyra reached out and touched her arm. "Maybe you should stay in your room for a few days, skip classes, wait for this to blow over." "I can't do that. If I hide, they win. If I let them drive me out of public spaces, they win," shook her head. "I have to keep going. I have to show them that their threats don't scare me." "But you are scared, I can see it." Was quiet for a moment. "Yes," she admitted. "I'm scared. I'd be stupid not to be, but fear isn't a reason to stop. Fear is just information. It tells you where the danger is. What you do with that information is what matters." Lyra's secondary arms wrapped around herself in a protective gesture. "I don't understand you, Monroe. You know what's coming. You know you're going to get hurt. Why won't you fight back?" "Because that's what they want. They want me to prove that humans are violent animals. They want me to give them an excuse to kick me out." His voice was steady, but there was steel underneath. "I won't give them that satisfaction. Whatever happens, I'm going to face it on my own terms." "And what if your terms get you killed?" The question hung in the air between them. Did not have a good answer for it. So she just smiled, a small, tired smile, and went back to her studying. The attack came 3 days later. Was walking back to her dormitory after her evening classes, taking the same route she always took. The path wound through a section of campus that was usually quiet at this hour, lined with tall hedges that blocked the view from the main buildings. She should have known better. She should have taken a different route, stayed in more populated areas, been more careful. But she was tired and distracted and thinking about the assignment she needed to finish before morning. They came out of nowhere. One moment she was alone on the path, the next she was surrounded. Stood directly in front of her, his arms crossed over his thick chest. His entourage fanned out around her, blocking any avenue of escape. There were 6 of them in total. Himself, 2 AL enforcers, a she recognized as a female named, and a hulking creature covered in thick hide that she did not recognize. "Hello," said. His voice was calm, almost pleasant. "We've been waiting for you." His heart was pounding, but she forced herself to stand still. "I don't want any trouble." "Of course you don't. You want to play the victim. Poor little human all alone in the big scary galaxy." Took a step forward. "But we both know what you really are, don't we? A predator, a killer, a monster wearing a pretty face." "I'm not a monster." "No, then why does your species hunt? Why do you eat flesh? Why do you train your bodies for violence?" Another step. "Why do your hands tremble when you're cornered like they're itching to strike?" Looked down at her hands. They were trembling not from fear, from something else entirely. "I'm leaving," she said. She turned toward the largest gap in the circle, the space between 2 of the AL. She did not get far. The first blow came from behind, a heavy impact that sent her stumbling forward. She caught herself before she fell, spinning to face her attacker. The hulking creature had moved faster than she'd expected, its massive arms still extended from the punch. "Not so tough now, are you?" one of the AL clicked. Straightened, her back ached where the blow had landed, but nothing felt broken. "I'm not going to fight you." "Too bad," was smiling now, a cruel expression that twisted his already harsh features. "Because we're going to fight you." They attacked. The AL came first, their mandibles snapping, their chitinous bodies moving with insectal speed. Ducked under the first one's lunge, the second. She did not counterattack. She just moved, using her body's natural reflexes to avoid their strikes. The hulking creature came next, swinging its massive fists in wide arcs. Rolled out of the way, came up in a crouch, kept moving. Her heart was racing now. Adrenaline flooded her system. Every sense was heightened, every detail sharp and clear. This was what humans were built for. Not strength, not speed, but endurance. The ability to outlast any predator, to survive any danger, to keep going when everything else had stopped. But she was not trying to win. She was trying to escape. She saw an opening and took it, sprinting toward the gap in the circle. For a moment, she thought she might make it. Then electrical discharge hit her in the back. The pain was incredible, a white-hot surge that locked her muscles and dropped her to her knees. She could smell burning, could feel her nerves screaming in protest. Her vision blurred. Her body refused to respond to her commands. A heavy foot pressed down on her back, forcing her to the ground. His face appeared above her, his expression twisted with satisfaction. "Not so scary now, are you?" he said. "Just another weak little creature pretending to be something it's not." Tried to speak, but her jaw would not cooperate. All she could do was lie there helpless as the circle of attackers closed in around her. This was it. This was how it ended. Not in victory, not in glory, but face down in the dirt on a world that would never accept her. And then from somewhere in the distance, she heard a voice. "Stop." The pressure on her back lifted. She could hear confused murmurs, the sound of feet shuffling, his angry voice demanding to know what was happening. With enormous effort, she lifted her head. Lyra stood at the edge of the clearing. Her skin was blazing with light, a brilliant blue that illuminated the entire area. Behind her, several other students had gathered, drawn by the commotion. And floating above them all, her ancient form glowing with cold fury, was Professor. "This ends now," the professor said. Her voice was no longer gentle. It was hard as steel and cold as ice. "All of you to the headmaster's office, immediately." His face went pale beneath his tattoos. "Professor, we were just... I saw what you were doing. The cameras saw what you were doing. The entire campus network saw what you were doing because someone decided to broadcast it." Her luminescent eyes turned toward one of the watching students who was holding a small recording device. "Move, now." watched as and his companions were escorted away. The pain was fading now, replaced by a dull ache that spread through her entire body. She tried to stand, but her legs would not support her. A hand appeared in her field of vision, small, delicate, blue. "Can you walk?" Lyra asked. "I don't know," grasped the offered hand and pulled herself up. Her body protested every movement, but she managed to stay on her feet. "How did you know?" "I followed you. After what I heard, I wanted to make sure you were safe." Lyra's secondary arms wrapped around his waist, offering support. "I'm sorry I didn't get here sooner." "You got here, that's what matters." Together, they made their way toward the medical center. Other students watched them pass, their expressions a mix of shock and curiosity, and in some cases, something that might have been respect. Did not know what would happen next. She did not know if would be punished or if the attack would change anything. She did not know if she would ever truly be accepted at this academy. But she knew one thing for certain. She had faced her fears. She had refused to become the monster they wanted her to be, and she was still standing. That was enough for now. That was enough.